and welcome to Module 3 of the database course. In this module, we will be continuing with Chapter 2 with QBE. We started with simple queries, and now we're going to take it a step higher. We're going to be talking about aggregate functions, as well as we're going to be using grouping, count, max, as well as update queries. So the way it's going to be working is as follows. Let me share my screen. So in the course, we're going to go to Module 3. And as you could see, there are the Module 3 overview. We're going to have the video here, obviously. And then notice we have the second part of the chapter in the module for reading. So for previous week, you read half of the chapter, although it's nice to go through the whole chapter last week, but I put down to go till page 49, which is about half of the chapter. And then in this module, you're going to finish it up by reading through page 50 to the end of the chapter. We'll also be doing the Module 3 Kahoot! Interactive presentation, which is the second part of Chapter 2. And again, as I mentioned before, this will be counted as homework. So you have to go through this slide by slide and answer the questions associated with those slides. In addition, there are 3 assignments for this module. We'll be doing the JC consulting exercises, questions 1 through 9. Going to be doing also the tile distributors, QBE questions, and the Chapter 2 questions, which is on Canvas. So I'll give you a brief overview of the chapter, and I'll show you how to do these assignments. I'm going to open up the PowerPoint, and we're going to just basically go through some of the important parts of this module. Again, as I said, I do expect everyone to go through these presentations as well as the book inside every page. There might be some things that I don't cover in these quick overview videos, so please go through the chapters on your own. If you have any questions, I'll be able to just email me, and I'll be happy to respond and resolve any questions that you have. So continuing with part 2, we're going to be working with aggregate functions. And these are the functions that instead of giving us the records of what we want, it will give us a summary or a type of a specific function that we want. For example, I might want the average of the salaries or the average of the prices, the count, meaning how many people or how many items have a certain criteria, the max, the highest number, minimum, the sum. And in order to do this, all you have to do is use the aggregate function, and then when you use one of these functions, you can either group them or you can specify the where. So in order to make this easier, I'm going to actually show you. So before I could do this, I'm going to go back to the course, and I will show you how to download the file. Obviously, to complete the homework, you will need to download the actual database file. So I'm going to do that with you right now. So I'm going to click on the JC Consulting Case Exercises. And as you could see, there is the file over here where you need to download. As I mentioned before, when you download it, do not just open it like that. Let me show you why. If I would open the file, says might be a virus, but it is a good file, so I'm going to click on OK. And look what happens. It gives me a security risk, and I'm not able to change this. The only thing I have access to is the learn more, which I really don't want to do. I want to be able to actually work with my database without having this security risk. And in order to get rid of this is by simply doing what I explained to do in the previous session, is by going back to my downloads folder. So instead of opening it, I will go into the folder itself. And in here, I'm going to find the database file. I will right click on it and then go to properties. And in here, there is an option that I will unblock the checkbox. Then I will apply, and then I click on OK. And now when I open it, I will be able to enable content, which I did not have access before. Once I enable the content, I'm able to work with my database. Okay, so some examples of what we could do for the grouping. So let's say I'm going to look at my clients table, and let's take a look. Let's make this bigger so we could see this nicer. So here I have the client ID, client name, street, and zip code. And notice there is some people who live in the same zip codes, right? So let's say I want to know how many people live in the zip code, say 01431. Okay, that's in this case, I will use the count. I'm counting the client. So the way we do this is I'm going to go to create. I'm going to go into query design, and then this is my QBE. Let me close this. And then I will bring my clients table. And in here, I will want to use count. But as you could see, I don't have any count over here or any aggregate function area. So in order to bring that up, I will have to click on the totals. When I do that, a new totals row appears over here. And here I'm when I click on the drop down arrow, I will have access to all of the different aggregate functions that I want to apply. So in this case, I want to get the amount of clients. I could count instead of total to be grouped by, I'm going to count. So I'm counting client ID. And in the next area over here, what I want to do is I want to specify the zip code, right? So I'm going to put in the zip code here. And then I'm going to say I want to specify where the zip code is a certain number, right? And what do we say? What do we want the zip code to be? 101431. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to type in 013. What was it? 01431. I'm sorry, 431. So, and then now when I click on the run, I'm able to see 3 people who live in that zip code. Let's go back to the design view. And if you could see here, you have 01431, 01431, and I'm going to have also here we have 01431. So there are 3 people. Now, what if I want to group everybody by their zip code? Say I want to know how many people live in every single zip code. So instead of doing where, I could change this and I could specify here group by. And then I'm going to make it visible. And this way it's going to group by zip codes, and it will tell me for every zip code how many people there are. So let's see. Can I go to query design? I'm going to run it. And notice I see here that I have 1 person lives in this specific zip code, 2 people live in this specific zip code, 3, and 1. Now I could do this for other tables too. So let's say I have employees, and in the employees table, I have all different types of fields. So let's say I want to get the total number of salaries based on their title. So notice I have different titles over here. I have programmers, UI design. So let's say I want to count people based on their title. Okay, so let's try to do that. I'm going to go to create, query design. I'm going to use employees. I'm going to count. Let's bring the totals. I'm counting the employee ID based on their what? On their title. And I'm going to group them by the title. And now when I run it, I see that there are 3 people who are customer support specialists, 2 people who are database developers, 5 people who are front-end developers, and so on and so forth. Now let's see if I want to know, based on their salaries, what is the sum of the salaries of everybody in the employees. Okay, so the way I would do this, I would go to my query, and let's go back to my design view. And in here, instead of using the count, I'm going to delete this here. I'm going to put in the sum. The sum of what? Of salary. Then when I run it, I will get the sum of the salaries of everybody is 162,950. However, sometimes you want to know, I want to get the sum of the salary of the programmers only, right? So as you can see here, there are people with programs. I want to know all the programmers together, right? What is the total of their salaries? So in that case, all I have to do is go back to my design view. And I want to get the salary, the sum of the salary where the title is what? Okay, title. Where the title is programmer. And then when I run it, I can't have to uncheck this box because I can't show it. So it shows me that the sum of the salary of only the programmers is 48,000. I could also do what is the sum of the salary of everybody based on their title. And the way I do this is by going to the design view. And instead of specifying the title, I could say group by. And I'm going to checkbox. So I'm going to say I want to group the salary by the title. And when I run it, notice I see the sum of the salaries of the employees that are customer support specialists is 13,000. The database developer is 15,000, right? And the same thing works with average and the rest. So let's say now I want to get the average of their, instead of sum, I could get the average. Okay, when I run it, I will get the average of the salary of each of these types. Okay, so these are basic aggregate functions that I could apply to my table. Now, sometimes you might want to say, okay, I want to also get the count. How many people were hired after 2020? Okay, or let's say I want to know after, say, April 15. I want to know how many employees were hired after 4/15/2020. Right? So let's do that. I'm going to go to create, query design. I'm going to bring the totals, and I'm going to type in, I'm going to do count of Oh, let's bring the employees, right? So we're going to say, I want to count all the employees where the hire date is after, which is more. Now, in order to put a date, you must put a $sign. So I'm going to type in, it was after the date. What did I say? 4/15/2020. I'm going to close it with a $sign. So now it will tell me, it will show me all the people that were hired after 4/15/2020, and make sure to put the number sign before and after the date. And then I hit go. Oh, that's because I cannot have this on because I cannot see the total for each row. So I'm going to run it now. And I see that there were 10 employees that were hired after April 15th. Now, obviously, if you want to see the names, then you would do the regular way of showing the names as we did last week, right? If you want to see the name of the employees, then you go to create, going to go to create design. Instead of putting the totals, I would simply say, here's employees. I would say, let's say I want to have employee name, last name here, first name here, hire date, and over here, I'm going to say the hire date, I want to be greater than $sign for 15/2020. Then when I run my query, oh, I did not close it up with the $sign, so let me do that. Okay, now it should work. Going to run it, and voila, I get that. Now, if you get these $signs over here, that means that the cell is not big enough. So all we need to do to change it is simply make it bigger by double-clicking on the border, and now every cell size becomes larger so that everything will fit in accordingly. And as you see here, the 10 people that we saw before, it was the number 10, and these are the actual names of those people who were hired. Then more than that after that date. Okay, so this is as far as the where. So we did this. So here's an example of the date, right? So it's saying that if you want to get the employee that is was hired before January 1st, 2020, it's the way we do it. Sorting records, we spoke about this before. You could do sort. Anytime you want to do sort, the left side sort always takes precedence. And update query, that's also a very important query to know. An update query is a query that will actually change records within the data within your table. So let's say, for example, I want to, let's bring back our database here. And here's my employees. So let's say I want to change all the people who are project leaders. I want to give them a raise, or not a raise. Let's say I want to just, yeah, let's say I want to give them a raise. How many project leaders do we have? Let's do the programmers, okay? Okay, you know what? Let's do something simple, and then I'll do something more complicated. Let's say for whatever reason, I want to change all the programmers' zip codes to 02222. Okay, but I want to only change the programmers' zip code. So imagine I have a table with million records, and within the million records, I might have, let's say, 200,000 programmers. I'm just making up a number, obviously, and I want to just change those records to 02222 for programmers. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to do that. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to my create query design, and here is my QBE. And notice on the upper left corner, there's an option to update, right? So what I do is as follows. What do I want to update? So first, let's bring the employees. And I want to update the home zip code. And I want to update to say 02222. Now, if I don't put any criteria for this, and I would run it, it will change the 02222 for every single employee that I have, right? Which obviously is not what I want to do. So what I do is I'm going to put in the title, and I'm going to specify that the criteria is a programmer. And when I do that, and I click on run, it will tell me you are about to update 8 rows, right? So it will mention, it will say that, look, this is all the 8 rows will change to this zip code. So I click on yes, and let's see now what happens. I open up my employees table, and the programmers all are 0222, 0222, 0222, and so on. And the interesting part of this is that there is no undo, so I cannot do undo. So the only way you could really do undo is if you have a backup of your database where you could implement the old one and bring it into production. But at this point, if you don't have a backup, you'll be in trouble. Now, the reason I have a backup, I have another exact copy of this database in Canvas, so I'm not going to have a problem with this. So as you could see here, it says there is no undo feature to reverse the changes made by an update query. Okay, let's just do 2 more queries. We have the delete query. This is where you want to delete based on a specific criteria. So let's imagine I'm going to go to my here and I want to delete, say, all the people who are, let's see. Let's see if I could delete front-end developer. How many front-end developers do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We have a lot of them. So let's say project leader. Let's say I want to delete project leader. How many projects? We have 1 here, 2, about 3 project leaders. So I want to delete all the records that are project leaders. So I'm going to go to create, query design. Here is my query. I'm going to go putting employees over here. And notice there is an option here called delete. I hit delete. I want to delete, let's say, from the employees table, employee ID, from employees, where what? Actually, I want to delete the title. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit delete the title from employees where we said project leader, right? Let me just see if this works. It says you're about to delete 3 rows from the specified table. It says once you click on yes, you can't undo the command to reverse the change. And I will click on yes. And let's go ahead and open my employees. And notice I no longer see the project leader. It's no longer here. Okay. Now there is another query that I wanted to talk about, which is make table query. So at this point, all the queries that we created here, when we save the queries and we run it again, it has access to the actual table. So whatever changes you make, it also implements, updates the actual table. Now, what if you want to create a new table, but based on the information of another table, right? So let's say I want to get all the programmers and I want to put them in a new table called programmers. Okay, so the way we do this is as follows. Now that table is going to be independent from the original table that we got the data from. So let's see. I'm going to go to query design. We're going to close this over here. And we're going to go to, oops, sorry about that. I had to drag it. I'm going to drag the employees here. And then there is something called the make table query, right? So let's say I want to get the employee ID. I want to get the first name. I want to get the last name. I don't need a higher date. I just want the title. And then for the title, I'm going to put in programmer. Now, instead of just running it, I'm going to first click on this make table button. It's going to say, okay, what would you like the name of your new table to be? So I'm going to put in programmers. Then I click on OK. Now, do you see any new tables over here? No, that's because I didn't run my query yet. So then I'm going to click on run. And it's going to say, here you have 8 records that are going to be pasted into your new table. Then I'm going to click on yes. And voila, I have my programmers table. And when I double click on it, I'm able to see only the people who are programmers. And this information over here has nothing to do with the employees. So whatever I change over here, it will not affect on the programs. Okay, so that was just a basic understanding of the different queries. For the homework, what you will need to do is, we're going to go back to our module 3 assignments. So here we have, so let's go back to the modules again. Then we're going to go scroll down to module 3. So you have the textbook. So do we know about this? We know about interactive presentation. So here's the J Consulting case exercises 1 through 9. So you click on that, you download the data base. If you have the book, you could go through the book, questions 1 through 9. If you want to download it from here, you could download the questions. You click on that, and here are the questions. You could open it. So it's simple. Just follow the information in here. So it says, let's open up our access, which is here. Now, by the way, this access that I'm using now, obviously I deleted some records, so it's not going to give you the same answers that you should be getting when you're doing your queries. So I'm just going to close these so that close. Okay, so here's my JC Consulting database, and here's the questions. So the first question says, select the last name, project ID, and client name fields for all the records from the employee with the last name Novak. Which of the following providers are served with Novak? Now, in the book, there are some answers to these questions, but at that point, I really don't need for you to answer the questions. All I need is for you is to write the queries in your database and submit your database. So in this case, what I do is I go to create, query design, I close this up over here. It tells me select the project ID, client, I'm sorry, let's do the first one. Last name, project, client for all records for the employee. So let's go to the employees. We're going to bring the employees here. So it asks us to say last name. Where is the last name? I'm going to put last name. Then it says project ID. Okay, where is the project ID? Okay, so project ID is not here. So let's go to projects. Oops, sorry about that. Let's bring the projects here. So notice the projects and the employees are not connected together, right? So in order to connect them, now remember when we did this before in the database tools, when you go to relationships, you will see all these tables now, labels connected together, right? The projects, clients. So I think what happened was I might have changed something in here. I might have to connect the employees. So this employees over here, right, is not connected anywhere. I will need to relate it. So how do I relate the employees? So I will have to look for a common field. So where can I find employee ID? So notice in projects, I have employee ID and employee ID into project. So what I will do is I will take the employee ID here. I will connect it to the employee ID in the project, right? And now it will ask me, I want to edit the relationship. I want to create a relationship between these two tables. I'm going to click on enforce referential integrity, which means that I want to make sure that all of the employees that I'm sorry, all the projects that I'm using with employee ID as the foreign key are included in the employees table. And I will click on create, and then it should be done. Okay, hold on. Let me see what's going on here. So in order to do this, is that there's no index, meaning there is no primary key for the employees. Notice there is no primary key. So I need to go back and I have to go to the employees table and I have to go to the design. I'm going to go to the table design. And in here, I have to set the employee ID as a primary key. So I'm going to choose the primary key. So now the employee ID is the primary key of my employee table. Now I'm going to close this out. I'm going to save it. Yes. Now employee ID is a primary key. You see the key next to it. So now I could click and connect it to the employee ID here. I'm going to enforce referential integrity and click on create. So it could be that what I did when I updated the information in the employees table, most likely I removed some things, and therefore it might lead into a problem. So let me download a new version of this file. So let me close this database. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my original one. So I'm going to go back to the access. I'm going to download a new JC Consulting. I'm going to open the folder, and this is the latest version. So what I'm going to do is going to change the number to 122. So I know this is the new version. So I'm going to right click on here, go to properties and unblock it. And now when I open it, it should work. So I'm going to enable content. And now when I open my database tools, I'm going to go to relationships. Now let's go ahead and go to employees. I'm going to go to table design. I'm going to make my employees into a primary key. So now employee ID is the primary key. I'm going to save it. Now, once it's saved, I could go ahead and use the projects, right? So we're going to take my employee ID. And I'm going to connect it to the employee ID in projects, going to enforce referential integrity and click on create. And now it works. The reason it didn't work before is because I deleted some of the employees which were in the project, so it didn't work for me. So now that I have my connections set, I could close this. I'm going to hit save. Yes. And now when I run my query, so let's go back and put this to the right side. And I had my questions over here. So I'm going to go create, query design. I'm going to close this out. And it says select the last name, first name and project ID. So I need the employees. So I need the first name, last name. Was it first? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It says last name and project ID. Okay, so this should be last name and project ID and client name. We need client. And then we also need, what else do we need? We need the projects. So the projects is the bridge table between these two. So we need all these three tables to be together. Okay, so we need the last name from employees, employee ID, client name field. So let's see, where is the client name? Good. And for all the records for the employee with the last name of Novak. So we want the last name to be Novak. Oh, we also need the project ID. I'm sorry, not employee ID. I need last name and project ID. So I'm sorry, I'm going to get rid of that. I want the project ID here. So I need the last name, project ID, and client name with the last name of Novak. Which of the following project ID values not associated with Novak? So I'm going to run it, and this is what I get as my result. That's all I need. Once I have this, I'm going to click on here. I hit on yes. I'm going to call it question 1, and I click on OK. You don't need to answer the question. As long as once you do all the questions, you will submit this to the Canvas, you'll be okay. And this wraps up on the overview of the queries for today, for this week. And once you're done with this, obviously you got to go ahead and do the second module, which is the tile distributors, which is a very similar. we're up to module 3. So you have the tile distributors, and then you just do the module 3 quiz, which is on Canvas. Good luck, everybody. And again, if you need any answers or questions you have, just please email me. Thank you, and have a nice day.